Basic Control, baby. Today we're gonna get in your minds. We're gonna get in real deep.
Welcome to Basic Control, the show where we effectively break down various forms of media into relatable context, basically giving the control back to the viewers. My name is Aaron Ray, aka the Boss Rating on social media. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. As for my co-host, where can the people find you?
At the size with a Y all over the internet.
Thank you, Adrian. Follow us on Facebook at PoppyGuysAttack. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PGAttack. Download and stream on Audio Mac and SoundCloud, or email us at pgattack@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, hypotheticals, or advice you'd like to see addressed on the show. First, we'll get into our icebreakers, our coverage and opinions on current events, moving then into our main topic, today being Get Down or Lay Down. Finally spilling out into the hypothetical section where we let loose, crack open our creative sides, and dig into the rabbit hole.
Welcome to Basic Control, baby.
I am a DC fan. I'm strongly into what DC's doing in the films. I'm into what they're doing in the
Reaper.
Yeah, and what they're doing in the comic books. I mean, both of those shepherded by is he still CCO? Jeff Johns, basically.
Heck yeah. Wait, no, isn't he the CEO now?
I think he might be.
They changed title.
He has a very fluid title. I think of DC Films, he's CEO, but I think he's still CCO of. Basically, what that means is he's like a super editor. Like he just got a lot of clout up there, and he's directing the boat up at DC.
Jeff's title over there extends to what other properties get to then do with those characters as well.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, we want you guys to make some toys, or hey, we're launching Rebirth. We want you guys to make some Flash shorts, not like wearable shorts, but like short films or something.
Short films? Yeah, because they got Justice League Action. They have the TV show, but then they also have the little shorts that they put on their YouTube channel. And pretty soon, the DC streaming platform where they have Young Justice Season 3. I think they have the Titans television show. I don't know if it's Teen Titans. They recently cast a person to play Raven. First official casting of that, has been just Raven, and her age, the age of the actress is kind of low, so we don't know if it's Teen Titans. She's kind of young, so people are thinking, okay, are they teens or are they fluid ages? Because they have Nightwing, not Robin, so it's kind of confusing. Even though Nightwing has, he premiered in Teen Titans, so who knows?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
My reason for bringing up Jeff Johns and sort of into our preemptive to talk about our main topic of licensing and things such of that nature. I just kind of wanted to open up with how Netflix has acquired Millarworld, which is the Mark Miller imprint of all his comics. People probably don't even know who Mark Miller is. You probably have seen things he's done or his adaptations out into the mainstream. If you remember James McAvoy,
like Kingsman.
Yeah, James McAvoy, Angelina Jolie, and Wanted. You got Kingsman, Kick-Ass 2. All of these series that have adaptations these days. I think he has some other ones. Old Man Logan technically is Logan. Also Mark Miller.
Real quick, did you know Nick Cannon was the chief creative officer of Radio Shack?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not know that.
It's quite random, but yeah. For people who don't know, Nick Cannon, he bought Radio Shack a while back. Justin Timberlake bought MySpace. But we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit later. But speaking of buying, like I said, Netflix bought Millarworld, and so like for me, I'm thinking, all right, we got the two to three movies that he's already created. He's higher up at Fox right now to producing their Fantastic Four / X-Men universe. He's sort of the Jeff Johns of of the Fox universe. And so for his own projects, certain things like Kick-Ass, Kingsman, we would kind of expect, all right, he would go to this studio or that studio, but since Netflix has bought his imprint, and now they have the rights to create these things, I wonder, what type of pool do they have on the films, things like that. I know future films will probably be exclusive to Netflix. Like, I would love to see like a film of something of some kind for like Super Crooks, but I'm wondering like exactly what the specifics of said deal is. Like, do they have will they get some type of money from the things that's already out? Like, do they get like sort of a kickback from the Kingsman film about to drop in theaters? So will Netflix get like a little percentage of that, or is it just anything future from this point on?
Well, usually with these kind of deals, and again, I don't know, I don't have any insider information or anything, but usually with these kind of deals, it's any future dealings that they do with that IP or intellectual property moving forward. So say Millarworld Comics themselves, any new things printed, they wouldn't deal with that. What Netflix is pretty much doing is buying a license from Mark to use his characters and stories in film. I don't know, because I did know Netflix is getting into merchandise.
Right. I was under the impression that this was more of a acquisition, right? Where they would, much how Disney bought Marvel Comics, and they became the producers of said comics and other things to that. Like, they're like, boom, that when you think Marvel now, you have that Disney parent above it, and giving Millarworld a parent such as a Marvel or a Warner Brothers type parent, I think that might help them be able to produce all the things that he said he was going to create a while back. And instead of just being like, okay, in name, we just want to have the rights to produce your films or whatever. I think this is more what happened to Lucasfilm with Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, a lot of times, especially now, a lot of the sort of licensing deals are changing a bit to fit more of a partnership format versus, we just want to publish some stuff with your thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, and when they acquire a license in that way, they're able to, depending on the type of deal, which it does seem like they're saying, well, bring your Millarworld over here and we will we'll produce content based on these things and together, rather than we're just licensing your thing. It's an actual partnership between
and so it's like much of a bigger difference from because this is being touted as Netflix's first acquisition, like real acquisition of like a whole other company. Like, they might have the rights to produce certain films and certain television shows, but like this is like, this is being like hailed as like, all right, they're really like going into the playing the Game of Thrones right now. For lack of a better term, or playing Monopoly, which is a big step.
And that's it. That's amazing, because they're a distributor / studio now, and for them to acquire publishers like that, because for instance, Disney just announced it's going to have its own streaming platform, and there were talks that they would pull the Marvel and Disney, or rather Marvel.
We'll talk a little bit about that later, but because that ties in. But
well, I just want to preface getting into the point with the Millarworld thing.
Right.
Something like that is different, where they can pull all of their properties off. And now that Netflix is like, okay, we're getting into the stage where people still own their, like an Image, where they still own their rights. Something like Netflix actually acquiring publishers is big for the platform, because they have more of a handle on original content that comes out.
When Mark Miller was, creating Millarworld as sort of, it's sort of kind of like its own Image. Yeah, it's all like his works, but he is very into collaboration and allowing people to work. Because remember, he had that workshop not too long ago. Mark Miller had that workshop where he was inviting artists and writers to come write his characters. So he's already preparing people to work within his own universe. So it's not just him, involved in these things. And that's sort of a step to, all right, now you have, someone bigger behind you. Like, I think Millarworld might take off, especially once you start getting like television and film, having that synergy between the two start happening, especially when it comes to, things like, could you imagine like a Jupiter's Legacy television show?
That's close.
Chrononauts TV show, like, come on, yeah. He
close to what?
He has too many things that he could just go into, film wise, especially for the quality that Netflix can put on them. Like, it's nothing, man.
Yeah, film, television. There's other things too. Like earlier I was mentioning, Netflix getting into merchandising, so that could see an entire Millarworld line of, I don't know, any kind of merchandise, T-shirts, book bags, whatever.
Costumes.
So this is good for costumes, right? This is great for publishers that own their material, because we just heard Skybound by Robert Kirkman, and both of these, Skybound and Millarworld, were, I wouldn't say imprints of Image, but what Image does again is the same thing as Netflix, is the partnerships with
right.
writers / studios, you could call them. So Skybound is acquired by Amazon, or it was Amazon or Hulu acquired Skybound from Robert Kirkman. So that's our Air, Birthright, Demonic Externity, Invincible. That's the name of the company.
Yeah, that's it.
Film.
Yeah, that's very much a one of those parody. Well, it's not so much parody, but it's very much lampooning like a lot of the things that it got within the genre itself. Like, it's making this almost weird subversion of all the tropes. A little bit back on Millarworld in terms of like the things that I kind of want to see from this whole Netflix deal. Fine print aside, is like some of these things like don't deserve to be filmed, but some of these things could work better as like TV. Like I was saying earlier, Jupiter's Legacy, if they try to make that or the other one into film, it won't work. In terms of the premise of, that's more of a slow burn. I would definitely turn that into television. But at one point in time, he was trying to make a Super Crooks movie, right? And he didn't have anybody to buy it. Like, he was like very far into the script, far into like, they had that teaser come out and it was like very crappy. But I think with Netflix money and what Netflix can do for like, creators like that, Super Crooks might blow up a little bit better than it would have if he dropped it around like when he first came out with that first teaser. So I can see that as a movie. He could bring Wanted back as a television series. Chrononauts should not be a film, and that's a comic book drawn by Sean Murphy, who I like Sean Murphy's style. He did that thing for Christopher Nolan, the Interstellar tie-in with that doctor, Matt Damon's character. For all you got Mark Miller, you got Sean Murphy, but for all of that, it wasn't that good. By itself, it was a good premise and likable characters, but the story was so like, I've seen it done it before. If they made it a film, I wouldn't like it. I think it's you need more time with these characters as maybe a series, and just have like the plot of of this series or of this graphic novel stretched out a lot more, in a sort of a serial format, in a couple few episodes and things like that, rather than just like one, all right, let's compress this into a film type deal.
That's the glory about Netflix.
It's flexible like that, where you have both TV and film, so any place he wants to go for it, like he can. Like if you take certain things at Paramount, they're like, well, this can't be a film, and then it's dead in the water. But since they like really want to invest in this, you already know you're going to see a lot of these properties show up as Netflix exclusives. Like you were saying, got exclusive merch, exclusive tie-ins and things like that. Imagine like the interest back into Millarworld comic books, as with that synergy, people will want to reread or pick up, because they're graphic novels. It's not like, all right, I have a Batman movie, which one is this based off? When you have Game of Thrones, there's specific books that you can go back and read that tie into it. With this, they're graphic novels. They're finite. They're not ongoing, so you can easily pick them up. It's like, okay, I have Chrononauts, I watch Chrononauts, like this is all together. And then same thing with something like Hit Girl or Kick-Ass or something like that. All of those things are already made for them to just pick up and just move on with. They're like finite. They have endings.
Also, another great thing about Miller stuff is he writes it specifically. Well, he writes a lot of it specifically so it can be cheap to produce, like say a Kick-Ass, or even in Jupiter's Legacy. If you've read some of that, it's not very. There isn't very many set pieces, I guess you would call them.
Right.
It's all very focused. So studios, and this is for any independent creators out there too, or interested, like, the better you write something, not to say cheaply, but writing it so that there's not a lot of room for effects or CGI and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have a better time being looked at by the studio and saying, hey, we can work with this. We can really work with this. And when you're getting to what you said about the comics themselves, I was thinking at Comic-Con recently, they said, hey, comics are reaching a low now, and we were facing another death of the industry. That kind of proves them wrong, because you get to reinvigorate interest in the comics or continue storylines based on the movies and the television show. They have Millarworld and people like Skybound have a better longevity because they're not dealing with ongoings, like you said.
Right.
What graphic novel that goes in, you can read Kick-Ass and watch Kick-Ass and be fine.
It's cool how he has like other little things on the side too that don't even need like no special effects and nothing like Chronicle-esque type, things going on. Like American Jesus and things like that. That can be like its own,
right,
like a preacher or something like that. And you got, he has Huck and very like down to earth things. Like you were saying, like he doesn't go to blockbuster level situations too often. It's enough to like, at the most he'll make something that's sort of on the level of maybe like Hancock, right? Because Hancock, for all of his special effects and things like that, it was very down to earth. It was very stripped down in terms of the way the story was told. So like, he's like the perfect person for what Netflix might want to do and get into sort of the franchise game, even though there's no. Well, all right. Put it like this: before there was no Millarworld universe, right? They weren't all connected. But I do remember he said he was trying to create a universe where, like, Kick-Ass and some of these other things coexist together in a universe. So maybe that's the allure of their thinking, is that, all right, maybe we can have these finite things here, but if we have a universe that's unique to us and we're not relying on Marvel or DC or something like that, we can just go in and make what we gotta make.
Exactly. And that case in point with that too is the fact that bigger companies like Time Warner and Disney can pull their materials off of these streaming platforms at a drop of a hat. So companies like Netflix and Amazon, Sony, etc. have to then really identify what they stand for at the long run. Like, we got a Millarworld We can rely on that. We know it is Millarworld Studio is under Netflix. It's ours to exploit fully trademarks, licenses, merchandise. The fans don't have to worry about investing in 30 different platforms because most of what they want to watch is going to be on Netflix anyway.
Right.
So it just works better for both parties.
I think it's weird. It's like we're reaching like that time where like it's because like Amazon, right? Amazon has the tick on there. Like I feel like every company has some type of superhero on there now, whether it be an X-Men or a Spider-Man or something like that. Well, I think Sony has they have the most to prove, to be honest, in terms of franchises. Because this for all the indie, you know, hype to it, it's not like Big Two, it's not things like that, but it's still like, you know, these are huge. That's a huge acquisition for them. Get down or lay down. That's what they usually say when they want you to fold into. I remember Tammany Hall. For people who don't know, Boss Tweed, Get Down or Lay Down, used to very, very infamous gangster or / mayor of New York. You know, 5 boroughs. You know, taking control of like everything, all the businesses. You know, you got your Rockefellers playing that old school Monopoly. But, you know, these days, your Boss Tweeds don't show up, you know, with gangsters throwing people out the windows. No, it's a lot more subtle. You know, the age of the hostile takeover is a lot. You know, it's out. You know, now it's economic takeover. It's now, you need me. Now it's like, all right. And so we get, like we were saying in the beginning, you get these acquisitions. But where I want to start with this is not so much an acquisition. It's sort of like trying to claim ownership of something that is not really to be owned. Adrian knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this guy. He has this company called Personal Audio, right? And for years and years and years, he's been trying to take over. I don't know what it is, but he kept calling up all of these podcasts saying, oh, well, you're stealing from me because I own the patent on podcasting and things like that. And like there was like, patent on podcasting, like, can you do that? Like, can you like really try to own something that like is like, you know, it's free, it's radio, it's conversations, you know, things like that. So this guy, he's for years and years he's been, you know, filing cases on people, and most of these people settle out of court instead of getting sued. But you know, when the cases do go to court, you know, they've been thrown out, and they're like, somebody finally was like, all right, let's question this guy keep coming at us with this patent. So they go through this process, which is IPR, which is a type of review which helps people defend or check the validity of a patent. And because of this company, I think it's called EEG or something like that, they were able to shut this dude down finally and just say, you know, what you're doing is like, you don't have the right to patent the idea of podcasting or episodic content on, you know, audio format. But it got me thinking about, like, you know, this sort of topic, acquisitions and trying to, you know, claim something or own something or take over like words and ideas, and you know, 'cause that's all it is. That the podcasting is an idea. It's like a conversation. Like if you're trying to own a construct of society, like, okay, I want to own the Happy Birthday song. You remember that? Like if I tried to sing the Happy Birthday song right now on air, I would probably get sued because somebody owns that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because he owns that. And now that gets me wondering, because recently I found out that there was a particular street somewhere near here. They waited for the value of this street to go down, and this real estate husband and wife team, they bought a street. And so now they're charging people who live on that street. They owed back taxes, so they bought the street at an auction. Anyway, they're charging people to park on the street.
All right. Wow.
And you have to ask, like, what is ownership, especially in America? I don't know if this is a problem that we have in other places of the world, but here, anything can be patented or trademarked. People will sue the shit out of you for nothing. Like, oh, you said portfolio. I own that word. I made that word. Like, people do shit like that every day, bro. Like, every single day. And it gets to the point where us as, well, say both sides, right? Mm-hmm. There's the civilian side, where you can't say certain things or use certain things or go certain places because of ownership. And then there's us on this side of creators.
Well, I can't create something
we have
that is,
exactly.
sort of, because there's the words, best example, the word superheroes. Can't use it. Marvel and DC own, like, the copyright for that. Somebody a while back got sued for that, trying to, let me just make something about superheroes. They own a word that's been in our lexicon since the 40s. It's a concept. It's more of a concept or an idea. And to own an idea, it's a restriction, and it's also power. And we talk about the idea of, once you have this, I own something, that means you have control. And when you have control, you have, I think you said it best, you have the haves and the have-nots. Slave and master. All these things come to mind when you have these, okay, I own this and you can't use this because whatever, I own the color blue. If somebody came out and they owned every word that started with B, and you would have to replace, all of these words in your life. I mean, it's a ridiculous idea, but, those are things that people believe. These are types of control that people try to, enforce upon your life. And, on the creative side, when you got, characters, and DC has to, pay a certain amount to certain estates to stay in connection with certain characters, because back then they didn't know they were creating a, what we know today as sort of DC as that universe. You had, our independent creators, which causes a lot of problems today in terms of rights, because you got to pay, each of these creators or their estates for certain characters. They're big.
Or oftentimes you don't have to pay anybody anything.
Right. Look at DC's.
That happens a lot too.
DC's big three: Superman, yes, Joe Shuster estate. Batman used to,
and Jerry's.
Yeah, Batman used to be Bob Kane, but I don't know what their estate, the Bob Kane estate or the Bill Finger estate. I don't know if they have any like money coming through them now, but or in terms of licensing, if they have like the full control of these things, and if they fail to create some of these things, they can be taken away. Like, imagine that they can take away, imagine a DC Trinity without Batman, Wonder Woman, or Superman. These are things we've grown up with, yes, and these are things that technically, in this case, yes, they do belong to the creators, but in terms of us, the viewers, we lose out because they belong to the world that we're already used to, something that's already living and breathing, and it's its own thing, that's its own existence that wasn't created beforehand.
That one about Wonder Woman is actually closer to reality, because DC they're obligated to publish, I think, 12 or if not 24 serials of Wonder Woman a year, or else they lose the right to continue to publish her.
Well, I know they were in and out of court with the Joe Shuster estate. for Superman, like a lot. And I know recently they were around the time when they killed Superman was or rather took away his powers. In the comic books, they had the New 52. They had a storyline called Truth, and during that time, they were very much in heavy conversations with this estate that really wanted to either take away Superman or like just get what they were owed. And I cannot remember what happened in that case, but I know it is settled now, and for a while, until until once again it comes back up. And so these things are always in fluctuation. People think that, this is like a permanent, all right, we will forever have these things, but like, let them slip up. Let these things like not be, taken care of. And next thing you know, they will lose these characters. Case in point, Static Shock. A lot of people, oh, where's Static Shock? What happened to Static Shock? Well, Dwayne McDuffie died. And even when...
It's a great thing you brought that up, too.
Yeah, even when McDuffie was alive, the relationship between him and DC was, sort of an exchange, because it was through, what was his imprint's name?
Milestone.
Yeah, Milestone Comics. And all of those were to help Milestone come up, having that, exchange, especially through the television series. But the reason why you don't see Static a lot now is because of that very connection to, he's never technically been a DC character. He's been like a guest or an outside character. Because they invited, Wildstorm characters and other things like that through the, acquisition of those through DC now. It's a lot more fluid looking, but you still don't see Static a lot. Static, when the New 52 first started, he had a series, but then they just dropped it because of those same rights, because of the agreements that they had, the flimsy agreements that they had concerning certain characters.
Yeah, and the deal with Milestone Comics was DC licensed Milestone Comics. So they pretty much, Milestone Entertainment was an imprint of DC Comics. And they weren't in the universe proper until recently, within McDuffie's final years, where he was writing the Justice League, and there was one crossover story where Static, you started to see him pop up in, I believe it was Jeff's run on Teen Titans. Don't quote me on that. But back in 2009, 10, 11, 9 or 10, you started to see them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Recently, the McDuffie estate came out against DC about the new Milestone relaunch. And those of us who were kind of looking to see what that was going to be about, it's been taking a while, and that's why. Because they are claiming that, what's his name, Christopher Priest and the other guys haven't been talking to them about it. So you got to worry about shit like that too.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, and Young Justice, right? Young Justice, you got Static, you got Icon, and some of the other ones as like main characters on there, right? And then you get
Rocket too.
Rocket, yeah. You get these Milestone characters popping up, but then you get the series itself canceled, and now they're bringing the show back, and you got these characters in there. So I wonder if they're aware that the states and things like that are, they're aware that these things are being used. It's
that's partially why they're out in talks now, because this all has to do with the Milestone relaunch and kind of preparing people for that. When you see certain characters pop up a little bit and then all of a sudden they're all over the line, or there's like a big thing. Case in point, when Guardians of the Galaxy were kind of creeping in a little bit.
Right.
And then now the movie, and there's book bags, and it's, they flood the market with it because there's the full go ahead.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that, I guess it's not common knowledge, but I don't understand how that's not the case these days. But you know, all the Marvel characters and all the Marvel movies are, you know, made by different companies. You know, when you see the X-Men, that's usually Fox. Fantastic Four is Fox. Sony, Spider-Man. Even still, you know, people think that, you know, he's completely over the hill into Marvel. He's not. He's on loan. Once again, that's, you know, a case of, you know, licensing and, you know, having characters being on loan and having these deals put out. And you can make the argument, okay, Stan Lee created blah blah blah. You got, you know, all these rights, but they sold the film rights to Sony, and they still have those rights, and they're sort of using that corporate synergy between each other in order to share a character, in order to help each other out. It's not like, it's what we call a messy situation, because, like, once again, you got Hulk, right? People's like, well, where's the Hulk movie? The Hulk movie it won't be made anytime soon, because all the Hulk rights are at Universal, and until Universal is, like, you know, able to, like, I'm pretty sure Marvel's probably trying to wait them out until, like, maybe whatever the terms of their Hulk agreement is over, then you could start seeing a Hulk movie being made. But as of now, you won't see that. You got to see him team up with Thor in order to see Hulk, or see him in the Avengers in order to see, you know, certain characters, especially and those are just big characters. There are very small things out there that are owned and make things a lot more sloppier.
Yeah.
And it's not just comic books either. Like, it's television, son. Like, there's certain characters that they have to drop, so you got certain things being changed because of that. You know, it I don't know, it's like it's that power thing, right? Because, like, I think the best metaphor for me for all of this is, like, I want to make a painting, right? But let's say Susie owns the color red, Bobby owns the color yellow, you got Billy owning the color blue. And so I gotta talk to Susie, and I gotta talk to Billy, and I talk to all of them individually, and I'm like, all right, cool, and let's all come together and let's make a painting. And I could do that, that's cool. But say I gotta paint an orange on, like, a table, like a you know, like a whatever table. And so I say, all right, the only colors I can get is red, yellow, and blue. So now I gotta come up with a deal between, you know, Susie and you know, and whoever, just to make the, you know, orange, in order to add that to my painting. You know, it's
just to make the orange.
Yeah. It's
that's some weird ass shit.
But you get it, right? Like, it's all characters, it's all names, it's all patents and things like that.
Certain foods that we can't get, like seeds, for instance. The companies have such a monopoly on seeds and farming industry, where if that seed happens to just blow over, like, I'm planting these grapes and you're planting tomatoes, and some of my wind blows the wrong way one day, and some of my seeds happen to get into your yard, so now you got tomatoes and a little bit of grapes in the corner. The company can come to you and say, wait, we sold it to him, you're not authorized to have this here on your land, we're going to sue you, and now you have to give a bunch of money you don't have, or give up, you know, most of your crops in your farm to this company. Like, this is and now certain foods aren't in the ecosystem, or it's weird, but it does extend to that. Music, everything.
God, music is even worse, because then you got your producers, you got all of, you know, so many hands in the pot, so many cooks, you know, trying to own something, and, like, you know, everybody's got a piece, and at the end of the day, what are you really looking at, like, in terms of the takeaway? Like, who really suffers if we all, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I don't want people to own what they create, but it's like, make sure that, like, you know what you're doing first and foremost. Because like I said, I don't blame what's going on with DC, because that happened at an age where they couldn't foresee what these things might be, in terms of creator-owned characters and things like that. It's the strangest thing. Like, it's the strangest system. And like, I'm glad for things like IPR, where people can actually call out a patent. So you can't just say, all right, tomorrow I'm gonna just go out and patent the color white. So like, everybody get ready. So like, I can't just do that, because you got that review that able to call me out on and that bull that like I can't really do that. But that it's not foolproof. You got people who can patent words and happy birthday and things like that, and it won't always go down in a way that like you feel like is fair. It's sort of like when we get back to like the metaphor of monopoly. Everybody's trying to like have or own these things or get the rights to these things, and you gotta oh, so you want Spider-Man, huh? So just and they do that money gesture, and he's like, dang, I can't just
cut me a check.
I can't just get what I have. Like, the very simple answer is like, all right, who created this? Stan Lee. Okay, he can use that, right? Isn't that like the simple answer? But like, there's you got Sony, you got Disney, you got Stan Lee, you got all these other things involved into these processes. You can't just have the simple answer, because there's that problem of ownership and the problem of power, this sort of power struggle between these patents and copyrights and things of that nature.
If I'm not mistaken, the copyrights last about 70 to 80 years, and after that it goes into so works published after 1922 are protected for 95 years. If a work was created but not published before 1978, the copyright lasts for the life of the author plus 70 years. So with things like that, they're then released into the public domain, and a company or somebody can buy up the rights to it afterwards. And that makes things kind of a little screwed up too, because if a company can own something for 95, how does that work? If the company owns that, it won't go into public domain because the company doesn't die.
I mean, I guess that's sort of the the end game there in general. You know what I'm saying? When you think about it, because you could say, well, yeah, like that's sort of like the catch-22.
Yeah, even when it came to forming my own publishing entity, I had to figure out, okay, am I gonna own these works personally? And the best thing for me was to have the company own the works, or at least own the right to the works, if that makes sense.
When it comes down to it, as a creator, if I die, I honestly, it depends on what's going on, right? Because like, I don't want to be the guy who's like, it's music, right? I think if I die, I think I want to, put all of my music up for just being able to be sampled and things like that, without having to like, oh, well, my estate deserves this, that, and the third from it. Because I mean, like, I support remixing and things like that. If it's like my pure song or whatever, I definitely kind of want, my estate to have some money to it. But if you're sampling or whatever my music later on in life, like, go for it. Because I understand, like, that's sort of like what creation is. You're breaking down what already exists and you're adding something new to it, or you're putting a twist to it. And I would appreciate if people did that, when I was dead, or even when I'm alive. If you're remixing what I'm doing, go for it. There's what you call YouTube remixers, right? They'll take say the audio on this show and they'll turn it into straight up music. Like DJs will cut up our audio into just straight up music, and you're like, okay, wow, that's a whole song based off the words that I just said. So like, well, there you go. That's a creation there. Am I gonna come up and try to sue a dude for that? No. Like, he's expressing himself. He's creating a thing out of like what already exists. He's doing what, you know, what the world commands of him. Like, do I want a percentage of that?
I would want my percentage.
I don't know, son. Like, this is my personal opinion, because I feel like when it comes to creation like that, I don't care about it. Like, you know, that works for me. I like seeing things like that, and I'm not trying to be that dude in the way of them making that thing. Oh, I had fun, I made a thing, and people want to pay me for this thing that I made. Like, that's cool. Like, get your money. If it's like actually copying and pasting what I already made, I think I might want to see you in court. But when it comes to
so you're just more against plagiarizing.
Yeah, I'm more against plagiarizing than it is something like that. And when we get to some of these copyrights and some of these situations, like the word superheroes, like if I came out with something superhero that, superhero this, and they want to throw around their belly and flex on a dude because he uses that word, that's what I mean. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's not what I want to do. And that's sort of like my metaphor for that, because I can't be that guy. Like, ideologically for myself, I can't be that guy standing in somebody's way of creating something. If someone sees the word like metahuman and things like that, it's like, okay, DC owns the right to the word metahuman, which they do. Like, what do you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you supposed to say? Like, I like the word's in the lexicon. We understand this thing as this, that, and the third. Like, if a dude wants to make a comic book and mention Batman or something, or like Batman is a part of some guy's figment of his imagination or something like that, and it's not a parody or something like that, but it's it's something, a part of whatever type of story he's trying to tell. This character is connected to this thing, this entity, this figure, idol within the world. I think he should be able to do that, to a certain degree, without literally copying and pasting what you got. As long as it's something new and something different, I think I'll be down for what's going on.
So kind of like a Ready Player One,
right? So if you want to use my characters and something like that, whatever, dude. Like, that's a whole thing. But if you literally want to like, all right, you remember Wreck-It Ralph, how they like literally took like some characters and just said, all right, well, I'm just gonna team up with or like when they put Q*bert into Pixels, they're like, oh, I'm gonna just literally use Q*bert. And it's like, all right, cool, that's whatever in that context. But like, when you make a whole thing and a guy's teaming up with Batman, like Lego Movie, and it's like you got a whole guy teaming up with Batman. Let's say they didn't get the rights for that. Like, I would be like, all right, I don't know if Batman should be like, or all these, what, the Lord of the Rings, like you got Gandalf as like a main character. Like, I don't know. I think you should get your own toys at that point. But I do allow something like that. But I don't let that one go as easy, if that makes any sense.
That's right. It's more so too when somebody takes your creation and is profiting from it, and then you say, all right, well, this guy took the characters I made, and now he's making money using those same characters. That's where these kind of things really are designed for.